Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Sitting here in our Los Angeles studios in person is a man who I met on the set of Billions just a couple of Januaries ago. His stand-up special, I Got This, is available right now on Comedy Central's YouTube page. 1.2 million views.
We just hit 1.3.
Pardon me. I need to hit refresh. I will hit refresh. We just hit 1.3 million views on Sam Morril's I Got This full special that will also be released an audio, a comedy album dropping this Friday and available everywhere. Good to see you, Sam. How are you, brother?
Good to see you, man. I'm good. I'm run ragged from just the road, and I'm scared of coronavirus, but I'm good.
Now, did you wash your hands before coming out here?
Of course. I'm very good about that.
By the way, I knew that this is the way you would feel about this, Chris, because I went back in our green room. Didn't even offer his hand to shake.
No.
You didn't even do the Howie Mandel fist pump.
Oh, my
God. You just sat there with your hands.
How foolish did he look? And he was ahead of the curve.
He was ahead.
He knew it. I remember I did America's Got Talent back in the day, and I was like a little offended by the fist bump. And I'm like, now I'm like, that, of course, that was the right move.
So you were on America's Got Talent?
One of the worst experiences of my life.
What do you mean?
Are you kidding? It's a reality show. Like, I've done Last Comic Standing, too, and that was bad because you're around anxious comedians. But America's Got Talent, you're around anxious everybody.
Right.
So there'd be like an anxious magician. There'd be like an anxious guy with a parakeet on his shoulder. You know what I mean? And my mom called me. She'd check in on me, and she said, how are you? I said, I'm freaking out. I have bad anxiety. And she'd be like, well, read a book. And I'd be like, read a book? There's people dancing Mambo No. 5 next to me. You think I can just read a book? This is insane. So it was awful, and they just kind of mess with you a little bit. Like, they try to make you say, like, they'd say this, and I was like, well, I'm not going to say that. And they try to script it.
Right.
And then before you go on, they'd be like, Simon's in a bad mood. And I'd be like, yeah, me too. I've been here 12 hours. Like, you think I care if Simon Cowell's in a bad mood?
When is he in a good mood? That's the idea. Is that
not often. I watched him tear. I only made it a couple rounds on there, and I did well on both. I made sure I'm not going to let them humiliate me in any way. I'm going to do well on TV. But it's a terrible experience. I mean, anyone who does reality TV is like, just know you're in for a horrible. I get there at 10 a.m. I went on at midnight one of the nights.
I'm telling you, my one and done experience, as you know, being a host of The Great Escape. It was a one and done season of. He's giving me this look right now. What are you talking about? It was.
I know the Steve McQueen movie.
No. It's called The Great Escape on TNT, and it was done. Man. It was done by the husband and wife team that puts the travel Amazing Race. That's right. Amazing Race on there.
Sure.
That just flew out of my head. But anyway, so I was the host, and you would have two teams of three, and they would be blindfolded, and we'd be in the middle of like Alcatraz, literally one episode, and they'd have to escape Alcatraz with different games throughout the actual Alcatraz they'd have to get through, and it was wild. There was another one for...
That's so American that there's a game to escape a prison.
Escape a prison. There was another one where I'm telling you...
Like a missile silo.
The boneyard, right?
Yeah.
So all of this together, right, is that I was the host of this, and they wanted me to be mysterious. And that's the last thing I am on the planet.
Yeah.
So, but the days were long. They were like literally 20 hours long, and these people would have to wait and whatever. That's my. They would
try to force you to say. They'd be like, the prize is you get to like, how badly do you want to win this? And I was like, I mean, you have to do a residency in Vegas, right? And they say, yeah. I'm like, I don't want to go to Vegas.
Well, it just, it's certainly, there are times when you're on the set of something forever and a day and you don't mind it. And that definitely, Sam Morril here on The Rich Eisen Show was the day on Billions. That was
fun.
What a day that was.
So
you were in the corner, who you were in the corner of?
Dan Soder, who plays Mafi.
He's like your buddy of yours,
Soder's been my friend for
ever. Right?
Probably at least 12 years, and I met him in the clubs, and I remember, like, Soder was funny out of the gate,
right?
So we were doing horrible shows together for years, and I still remember a joke he had. It was the first time I ever saw him. I knew he was like I was handing out flyers for stage time, and he was doing the check spot, which is, you go on when people are paying their bill.
Right.
They're both horrible, So and we instantly hit it off. He's a great dude. And,
he's a good dude.
And Dan had a joke, I remember the first time I saw him, about how pretentious Whole Foods is. And this is when Whole Foods was even more pretentious back in the day. They've chilled out a little, but how they insulted him when he walked in. He said, you need a place like Walmart because the greeter
Yeah.
You know, like that makes you feel good about yourself when you walk in. Like you walk in and you're like, oh, I like that guy. I'm going to buy a flat screen. He's like, that's what you. And I just remember that joke being like, oh, that's a great joke. You know.
And he's he was on the show recent days, and he's a diehard Niner fan, so I'm sure he's licking his
and
wins from the
Nuggets.
Super Bowl.
He's
And
got, he's got weird,
really weird. I know.
Because he had a weird, like you know, he had his dad, but then he grew up in Colorado, so he's a big Nuggets fan. Loves
big
Jokic.
Nuggets/Niners hybrid. I know he kind of gave him grief for that. So you were in the corner with your buddy Soder and I think Miocic, right?
Yeah.
What was it like hanging with Miocic?
He was awesome, man. I got to admit, I don't know that much about fighting. I'm more of a basketball guy, but he's great. I texted him because I was in Cleveland recently. I had Tim Ferriss and Stipe Miocic.
That's right.
And me. And
it's a wild day, man.
The dumbest corner ever. I was like, why am I here? But yeah, I mean, it was so fun. It was the most fun shoot ever.
It was great because Deontay Wilder was there too, and he was just a million. We should look at the picture of him. He's standing above the entirety of the.
And Billings is such a good show.
I know.
It's a show where you're like, oh, I actually would watch this show anyway.
Oh, it's amazing. And there's Bob Menery standing right there. I got to spend the whole day with him. I gained about 10,000 Instagram followers just by being within 2 feet of him. It was amazing. Sam Morril here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, do we want to get into the Knicks? Do you want to?
Sure. Sure.
I mean, so
I've been a Knicks fan for a long time.
Okay, so how old are you?
I was born in '86. So my first taste, 7 years old, was that was like my first memory is us losing in the finals.
Right.
I loved Starks.
You lose the finals again to the Rockets, right?
Yeah. So
you're a 7-year-old. You're watching the low speed OJ chase in the right hand corner of the screen, and the Knicks Rockets in Madison Square Garden and the full screen.
At least OJ gave us hope with that chase. You know what I mean? At least he didn't brick 18 shots or 16, 2 for 18 Starks.
John Starks, man.
I love Starks. That hurt. As a kid, he's every kid's favorite player because he's a gunslinger. Every kid loves a guy who's just kind of streaky.
Yeah, with no conscience.
No conscience.
At all.
I loved him.
But that was so great about him. And Starks he came out of nowhere.
And he was 6'3", guarding Jordan and Reggie and all the two guards.
Let me tell you, too, just since you were 7 years old, I mean, I'm 50, so I'm a little bit older than you. And so I graduated high school when this man was born. But all that said, I'm trying to do the math in my head. But all that said, you're just Knicks fans waiting for somebody like Ewing. And then waiting for Ewing to be paired with anybody that could take the pressure off of him. And it was supposed to be Bernard King. But Bernard King blew his knee out just as Ewing was being drafted, which is why they were drafted so high. They were able to draft so high. That and maybe a frozen envelope in the David Stern Tureen. But by the way, great fantasy team name, David Stern's Tureen. That Starks was that guy. He finally became, obviously pairing Oakley with him was one thing as an enforcer, but you needed someone to put points on the board and create an outside game that could take the pressure off of Ewing. And Starks was that guy.
But how many teams won with a guy as Starks' level as a second option? It's very few.
Well, you got to be honest with you. Almost the Cavs did with J.R. Smith. I'm
with
trying to
LeBron?
You with LeBron, yeah.
They had Kevin Love and Kyrie though.
No, I guess that's the year that they won it, or I guess they could come close. I'm trying to make some sort of comparison.
The Rockets that year, I guess, are the comparison because they had maybe like a rookie Sam Cassell and Robert Horry and
maybe
Vernon Maxwell. They didn't really have a guy who was. I feel like every other team had. Bird had a couple guys. Magic had a couple guys. Jordan had Pippen. I feel like.
Well, I mean, the Knicks again had Oakley, which is another reason why I've swore off the Knicks because of the way Oakley got treated.
I got a crazy Oakley story.
Please, you have the floor,
first off,
Sam
I was
Morril.
at the game.
You were at the game.
I was at the game with my friend Michelle Wolf, who's a comic, and she's adopted the Knicks. I feel like partly out of our friendship. My other friend Joe Mackey, they're both from Pennsylvania, so they've adopted the Knicks because they moved to New York, and we're good friends. So we're at the game. We see it going down, and it's insane. It's humiliating.
It's insane.
And I worked for the Garden. I had a show on MSG. So I had a show on that network. They were like, we're going to make a comedy show. I don't know if you know this. Not the best home for comedy. The MSG network.
Well, intended comedy.
No,
it's not unintended comedy. It's a treasure trove there,
They
man.
insulted me nonstop. And it was tough because I'm a diehard Knicks fan. It's insane for me to just be like, oh, I get to interview Starks and Evander Holyfield and anyone who comes on the show. This is so cool to me.
Right.
A kid who grew up loving the Garden. So it was tough. And then Oakley, I see him at the Big Three. He's at the Big Three tournament, Ice Cube's thing, and I'm covering it because I was like, I can interview like 20 NBA players. I would get to interview Dr. J, Iverson, all these great people.
For MSG.
Yeah. It never made the show. I got all this footage, and they're like, we can't. This is a great example of MSG. So I interview Walt Frazier, who's the coolest. Who's cooler than Walt Frazier?
Nobody.
And I'm a big fan, so I said, I'm asking questions to me that are interesting. Like, you were roommates with Phil Jackson on the road. That's got to be pretty weird when you see players living these luxurious lifestyles. You have a roommate. Like, that must make the bond that much more intense. And then they cut it down to just ask about his commentating. I'm like, this guy lived the most incredible life, and we're just going to ask him about broadcasting?
Right.
And so the interview's condensed to me, like, use a lot of big words. That's the interview.
That's it?
That's basically it, So,
wow.
So I get to Oak at the Big Three, and he sees the MSG mic in my hand, and he smacks it out of my hand. Do you know how painful that is for a kid who, I was like, you were my guy. And I can't, I couldn't even, so I just said, hey, man, I'm a New York kid. I'm a comic. I don't know what to tell you. And he kind of softened a little when he saw that it hurt me,
Right.
And we talked, but he wasn't warm. And then the show ended up going off the air, and I ended up doing this thing for Bleacher Report, and it was an infomercial, and it was just me and Oakley.
Okay.
Right? So it's me and Oak, and it was supposed to cut away to Michael Rappaport and Ron Artest and all these people. So the infomercial, it's called Oak's. It was a big production. It's called Oak's New York Deli, and it's premium New York beef.
Right.
And then he comes out, and I'm
Premium
like an
New
infomercial
York
guy.
beef.
And then I'm doing the infomercial, and he comes in, he goes, with no MSG, It was a really funny sketch. And Oak, there's a part where Oak smacks the deli meat out of a kid's hands. He's like,
Right.
no easy buckets, dumb stuff like
Sure,
that. But
right.
out of Oak's mouth, it's hilarious. And they just ended up not airing it because they didn't want the beef with
But Dolan,
MSG. Yeah.
it's amazing, man. And I'll tell you what, even if Sam Morril, the comedian, again, check out his comedy special with 1.3 million other viewers.
Yeah, baby.
I got this available right now on Comedy Central's YouTube page, standup.com/Sam Morril. So I'll tell you this, even if Oakley had just looked at you sideways because you had a microphone cube that had the Madison Square Garden network on it, even if he just looked at you sideways and answered your questions, they wouldn't have aired it. There's no chance that if you came back and just said to all the MSG producers, hey, guess what? I got Oakley. Do you think that would have made air?
I'll tell you another
There's
thing.
no chance.
John Wallace came on the show.
By the way, if they edited out your questions of Clyde, from Clyde Frazier because they thought it might be too, edgy, risque to ask about what it was like to room.
Diversity.
I mean, they would have absolutely made sure you didn't make air with that, Sam.
So I had John Wallace on 2 weeks after the thing, and they were like, all right, just ask him whatever. Just ask him about being a 90s Knick. Every answer John Wallace says is, I'll remember what Oak once told me, and they couldn't use anything. Because every answer was just Wallace praising the greatness of Oakley,
Wow.
Everyone loves Oak. And so that's
why I swore off the Knicks. And to hear Spike Lee say what he's saying right now, it's just like, what took you so long?
For them to issue a press release calling Spike Lee's behavior laughable, that's like a tweet you write when you're angry and you're a kid. That's not what you write if you're an organization. Being a Knicks fan the last 20 years has felt like finding out there's no Santa every day. It's like every day. I'm like, how is this still happening? And then Dolan has beef with Spike. This guy's giving you free branding.
I know.
And he's paying for his tickets. None of those celebrities pay for their tickets. Spike pays for his tickets.
That's true.
And he's wearing Knicks stuff everywhere. He puts Knicks in all his
He won
movies.
the Oscars talking about the Knicks.
Yeah.
He won his Oscar, and Samuel L. Jackson ragged on Spike's Knick fandom because how badly the Knicks had just recently lost.
Well, it's a sickness.
And but he knew that it would actually be a fun way to needle Spike because it meant so much to him. He wore his Knicks fandom on his sleeve when he won an Oscar.
Yeah.
What do we? All right, this is called a Dolan wormhole around here, where I feel the gravitational force of what this man has done to the team, and that's why I'm just all the fans just stay the course, just keep chanting, sell the team because he hears
they get thrown out.
They get fine. That's going to stop.
When
it?
did the Garden become Guantanamo Bay? What's going on?
It's a great question.
It's
a great question.
You can't throw fans out for chanting "sell the team." Did you throw them out when they chanted "fire Isaiah"?
You know
Do
what?
you throw them out when they yell at the players? But then you're above that for some reason because your ownership.
It is so. Here's the thing that I thought when I saw that. First of all, like that's going to stop it. Okay, like we're all going to live now happily ever after because Kevin and his team from security yanked somebody out for saying that. But it's so antithetical to being what a New Yorker is.
Yeah.
New Yorker is thick-skinned. New Yorker is telling you what you don't want to hear because you need to hear it. New Yorker is overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be a New Yorker.
Exactly.
Even though, as you
Critical.
Point out, even though you point out I'm a Staten Islander, not a real New Yorker, and I'm talking to
You're a
Manhattan.
real New Yorker.
Thanks, Sam. It is totally antithetical to what it makes a New Yorker and what we as New Yorkers feel about ourselves and about our city and about our ethos of being New Yorkers. It is totally thin-skinned and weak.
You nailed it. And not to mention, he has ruined an escape. Like the Knicks, I feel almost silly talking about the Knicks this much and how much they mean to me when so much horror is going on in the world.
Right.
But when that horror is going on in the world, you need an escape. And basketball is my escape. I love basketball. I love the Knicks, the 90s Knicks, even the 99, 2000 Knicks, Spree and you know, Houston
right.
and LJ and Camby. That was an awesome team. You know, like he has ruined something that's supposed to be beautiful. And in New York, we are so hungry. The team is still valued at $4.7 billion, which is more than any other team. And we haven't won a chip in 50 years.
Right.
That says that we're hungry. And I can't go to games right now. I just can't go. I'll still root for the Knicks and I'll still watch them on TV. I still want RJ Barrett and you know, Mitchell Robinson, these kids to succeed. Mm-hmm. But I can't go to the building. It feels... And I can't root for the Nets ever. I will never root for the Nets.
Well, just stay tuned to see what Durant and Kyrie look like, and maybe you can get into that. But the good thing for you, Sam Morril, is that your career is doing so well that you don't have time to go to Madison Square Garden. As you say, you're on the road. Your YouTube special is just blowing up right now.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's doing well. It's weird. It's a weird feeling because, you know, I shot my last two for Comedy Central, and then I shopped this one around. It's definitely my best one, and there was just no interest. A lot of people are saying that the landscape is open for comedy, but it's kind of not. There's really like HBO, Netflix, and Amazon, and I'm not convinced people are watching the Amazon specials, you know?
Okay.
So if you're not on those two, I think you're kind of in trouble. And I did my last two with Comedy Central, and they put I had to fight to get the full hour online, because I said, that's how people watch now. They don't watch TV. And they put the full hour online with an ad every 3 minutes. And I was like, dude, who's watching this? Come on. Mm-hmm. So this one, I took a pay hit to get their subscription base and make sure there's no ads throughout.
And, well, like I said, 1.3 million views, man.
I knew it would work, but it's great. I basically said, you know what, I'll make my money back on the road. And then every news channel was like, don't go out, there's a coronavirus. I was like, I might have planned this poorly, you know?
But it's all working right now. Again, I got this, the full special, 1.3 million views and counting on the Comedy Central YouTube channel. You're releasing the comedy album coming out on Friday, available everywhere. SamMorril.com. That's it right there. SamMorril.com, Phoenix, Tempe, New York City, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Some other spots for you the rest of this month.
All new material on those tours.
Congrats, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Come back around. I'm just trying to see when you're back here in Los Angeles.
I'm back like every month. I date a girl out here, so I'm here all the time.
Look at you, man.
Yeah.
Life's good for Sam.
It's all right.
Okay. Well, come back up. We'll have you on anytime you're out here, please.
Thank you, man.
You got it. At Sam Morril on both Twitter and Instagram.